Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Fuhrman. Welcome to Vox Novus, the new voice. In an astrological birth chart, your moon sign represents your true personality and emotions. How may understanding the relationship between your moon and sun signs, as well as the position of the planets, teach us to approach relationships, understand and heal old wounds, face challenges, and find comfort and happiness? My guest this week on Vox Novus, Carmen Turner-Schott, is a practicing clinical social worker, psychotherapist, and astrologer with a national and international clientele. She's combined these modalities to serve those who've come to her for more than 25 years. Her website is carmenturnerschott.com, and she's written several amazing astrology books. She joins me this week to share her wisdom and recently published book, Moon Signs, Houses, and Healing. Gain emotional strength and resilience through astrology. Please join me in welcoming to Vox Novus, Carmen Turner-Schott. Welcome, Carmen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing really well. I can't believe it's already the end of August.
Yeah, time flies, absolutely.
Yes.
Carmen, please share with our listeners your early path and the event that opened your fascination and pursuit of astrology and all things mystical.
Yes. So when I was 16, I always had these dreams that would happen, and no one could really explain it to me. And I always felt really different from my family and my friends and everyone in my life. And one night when I was 16, I woke up and saw a glowing ball of light in my doorway. And I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I had no voice. And I just watched this orb of light for hours, it seemed. And finally, I was able to yell. It's like it released my voice. And I yelled for my mother, and she saw it too. She looked in my doorway and saw it too. And so that experience, number one, changed my life because I've never had anything like that happen right at that time. And it really made me interested in angels and spirit guides and all of these mystical things. And that's when I bought my first astrology book. And I started teaching myself astrology when I was 16. And then by age 19, I was doing consultations and charts for my friends, family, people in college, and just for fun as a hobby because I loved it. And I was a social work major, psychology, so I wanted to be a counselor. And I just realized that this tool of psychology is a map of the soul, and it can really show everything about yourself. And it validated why I was the way I was. And so that's what really got me on the path of spirituality and psychological astrology and using it as a tool to help others.
Now, did you ever determine or recognize what that orb was and the message it was delivering to you?
You know, I never really did, but I do think that it was one of my spirit guides or an angel or something, because after that, I became even more intuitive. So I feel like that experience changed me, and I was even more intuitive, if that makes any sense. And I would dream things more. I started having more dreams that would happen and just more feelings and more interest, right? And all of these spiritual things like, why am I here? I'm a soul. What's my purpose? So that really awakened me in a way. I always was very open and very sensitive to energy and things anyway, since I was a little kid. But that experience made me want to learn more because it was definitely something I can't explain, right? And I was just happy that I had a witness, right? That my mother saw it, because she often would say, it's your imagination, go back to sleep, right? And she would kind of just say, oh, here she goes again, waking me up in the night with a dream, right? And that night she saw it too. And she said, I have no idea what that was. And it kind of scared her. And I wasn't scared of it. What it was the fear of the unknown. And I wish, now I would get up and try to go over to it. But like I said, I was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't I couldn't yell. I had no voice, and I just watched. But it was interesting because the only thing I had control of was my mind. And I remember just thinking and praying, please don't have it come in my room. Please don't. And it never did. It just stayed right in the door sill. And then it would take off and come right back. And it was bigger than a softball, just a little bit bigger. And it was translucent, like watery yellow, white light. And it was really, really pretty. I mean, now that I look back, I don't know why I was so afraid. I think it was just the unknown, you know.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I grew up in the 1950s. And I had a number of experiences back then. I won't go into them now. But I was also labeled as a child with an overactive imagination.
Yes.
And my mom, who passed away in 2020, January 2020, the months before she passed, I would have lunch with her every weekend rather.
Oh, nice.
And I asked her, I said, you never believed me when I shared these experiences as a child. I said, you never experienced anything strange, did you? And then she said, not really, except for the time, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And she opened up to me about her experiences and finally confirmed for me shortly before her passing all the things that I had experienced as a child. So I find that as a blessing and a gift from her before her passing. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really amazing. It's interesting you bring that up because I think sometimes our parents don't share things with us always. And I also found out from my mother it was probably 5 years after this glowing orb situation that she had something very unexplained happen to her that it really bothered her so much she got teary-eyed. And she happened to tell me one day, I said, how could you have not told me this, right? All these years. And she said, I didn't think anyone would believe me. But something happened to my mother where she woke up in the night when she was 19 and she saw someone was sitting on the side of the bed. And she knew she was awake and she just gets upset talking about it. But and whatever it was turned and looked at her and it scared her, right? It was, like a white face with a hood kind of thing. So when she doesn't even want to talk about it to this day, but it's interesting because right after that, she found out she was pregnant with me and she never told me this. And I got like the same thing. The hair went up I said, well, oh my gosh, maybe that's why I'm strange. Right. And I have all these things, but she never really knew what it was. And my grandmother told me that she slept with the light on for like a long time after that because she was still living at home at the time. And my parents had me when they were young. And so right about 3 months later, she found out she was pregnant with me. So and about 3 months pregnant. So it was interesting. And I think maybe it was symbolic of change, your life is going to change kind of thing. And did she really see something in her mind? Yes, she did. And so I've always been open-minded that I'm not going to judge someone else's experiences because I've had things happen, and until you experience something, you really don't know. And I'm not going to tell someone, oh, no, that didn't happen to you. I always believe people because no one knows better than yourself, when you have these experiences.
Absolutely. And for parents who are listening to us today, I will emphasize, and I'm sure you'll join in sharing with me, that if your children start sharing things with you, please listen to them and don't dismiss what they have to say because it's really important for their growth and understanding.
Yes, definitely.
Now, your calling as a clinical social worker and psychotherapist has also embraced working with victims of trauma and sexual assault for more than 25 years. What are the skills and gifts you share with them, and what do they need the most?
Yes, so, the thing that has helped me the most, I think, work with people that are in a crisis is just being a calm presence and using my energy. I really believe in energy. And I believe that astrology is energy and our personality, our chart shows what kind of energy we have. And so I think one of my personality traits is I'm good in a crisis. So I'm able to, kind of take charge, jump in and be very calm and compassionate and listen and just kind of nurture, people in their hardest time. And so, you don't even have to say anything at times. You just are there with someone, to be present with someone, and they know that you support them fully. And so that's what I've always tried to do, is to be present with someone, listen, and let them know they're not alone. and help them. And, a lot of times when there's a crisis, and I've been through, even in my personal life, when things happen, I naturally am able to kind of react and jump in. And that's my birth chart. I have an Aries moon, so I do well in a crisis. And I learned that about myself. And it's in the 8th house, which is all about trauma and healing and all of these intense subjects, right? And mystical things. And so I'm able to really accept anything that anyone tells me. I've always drawn people that want to share their very deep, dark secrets with me. And even when I was in the grocery store, people would come up to me and just share really deep things with me about losing a loved one and all of these things. And I would just listen. And that's kind of what led me to be a social worker, really, is that I thought, well, maybe there's something about me that I can help people. And so, because I always would have people come up to me. So I became a social worker because of that. And nothing shocks me. I've heard so many stories, and I don't judge. And I think one of the skills of being a counselor is to, well, my opinion is that when you've been through things yourself, it makes you a better counselor and a stronger, able to empathize with people, because, people know if you get it, right? If you understand what they've been through, because they can sense if you're uncomfortable with what they're telling you, they're not going to feel open to share. And if they know that you understand, because, maybe you've been in the same situation as them, or they just feel that you understand, right? That makes all the difference in helping people open up and share their wounds, so to speak, with people.
Am I your long lost brother? Because we're the same person.
I love this. No, we must be. I'll have to look at your chart. I bet we have something similar in our astrology chart for sure.
It's interesting. One of the things that has graced my life, in addition, I was spent 44 years in business, but I also had a spiritual calling, and I became an ordained interfaith minister back in the 1990s.
Oh, nice.
And part of my spiritual coaching work has been listening to those who come to me with their trauma, with their problems, with their worries, with their grief. And one of the gifts that I've been given is to share my experiences through poetry. And I wrote a poem called The Gift of True Listening. May I share that with you?
Oh, I would love to hear that.
There often are words that need to be heard without cutting in or positioning. Your heart will be stirred and compassion conferred as you offer the gift of true listening. You'll create sacred space while bestowing great grace, with love all around you glistening. It may be any place or a soul you embrace as you offer the gift of true listening. So gift someone near you by saying, I hear you, lifting them up with your christening. And one day when you're due, you'll be heard too, receiving the gift of true listening.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So how does your work in astrology interweave with your clinical practice?
Sure. So, I really have 2 jobs. I always have had two jobs. I've always done my astrological work, and then I have my normal, so to speak, social work job, right? But I live this, this has become a part of who I am. I talk astrology in everything I do because I believe that it's in ancient cultures. It's in the Bible. It's a tool of self-awareness. And so I use it to get along with people, right? To understand my coworkers, my clients, people that I deal with day to day in my normal job. And I see these patterns, right, in their personality. And I'm able to identify that energy, or I'll know, oh, their sun sign is Scorpio. That's why they're this way, or they're Leo, right? And I'll see these strengths, right? Sometimes you click with some people, sometimes you don't. And I know that. And I'm very good at understanding people. And so I use astrology in my everyday life, in my work, in team building, right? To understand people that I work with all the time. And it really helps me get along with people and understand them, even if we might be different, to put myself in their shoes. And so I live this, I live these things I've studied and try to apply them, in my everyday life. So everyone that knows me now in my normal job, they know that I write books and that I'm into this now because I'm kind of more out there. I used to be more behind the scenes, right? More private about it, but they know because I'll say, oh, it's a full moon, or, Mercury's in retrograde. So everybody, miscommunication might happen, and they know that I'm right, and they'll laugh. They'll say, Carmen, is it a full moon? I'm like, yes. And these are people that don't believe in astrology, right? But they're starting to open their mind, and they're like, Carmen, you're right. There's something to this. And I explained to him, it's a science. The moon affects the tides of the ocean. Of course, it affects our emotional nature because our body's mainly water.
That's
and
right.
so it heightens our emotions, because that's what the moon sign is, our emotional nature and our inner nature and our intuition and all of that stuff. So yeah, I definitely live it. And I'm definitely now out there, so to speak, that people are starting to know that, this is a big part of my life. And I mean, it took a long time for me to feel comfortable really being open with everyone about what I do, especially my family, because I even had some cousins that had no idea that I did this work, and they didn't know I published books. And when they found out, they were kind of like, why didn't you tell us? I'm like, well, I just didn't know if you'd be open because, I was raised in the Midwest and that's the Bible Belt. I was raised Baptist, but I always consider myself a Christian astrologer.
Right.
And I've wrote a lot of books about astrology in the Bible. I have a little ebook out there of articles that I published. And I do believe that there's so much more that we don't know. And I just know that this tool, I've been able to help people in such a deep way in a very quick amount of time, where just normal talk therapy doesn't get to the root of things and deeply affect someone like astrology does. And so I use it as a tool of validation. And it really just validates what people already know about themselves. That's all I'm doing is, I'm not telling them anything they don't already know. I'm just talking about their personality and their gifts, their strengths, the careers, their relationship compatibilities and all these things to help guide them. And so I use it in my everyday life. Yeah, with people and family and everyone, because I believe it's energy.
Absolutely. You mentioned your upbringing and your Christian faith. You authored an article that I read entitled Astrology from a Christian's Perspective. Now, one might think that astrology and Christian faith are mutually exclusive, but you eloquently express they are not. Please share with our listeners.
Yeah, so the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of Christians, especially Protestants, I feel that more Catholic people that are Catholic or have been more open-minded to astrology as far as approaching me or writing me, right, and reaching out. I think because, there's so many verses in the Bible that people focus in on. There's just like one or two verses that may seem a little negative about astrology. But when you really look at the Bible in totality, the whole Bible is full of astrological symbolism. And I always went with, what did Jesus say? That was my thing. What did Jesus teach? And if you look in the New Testament, he even says, the old way is gone. The New Testament is, these are the two, the golden rule. These are the two things I want you to do. Love one another and love God. And so, and serve people, treat people the way I want to be treated. Well, even in the book of Genesis, it says God created the heavens and the earth. He created the stars and the planets and everything, because that's tropical astrology. So it goes back to ancient Jewish culture, ancient times, where even on the money, they had the symbols of the zodiac on the floor of the synagogues. In churches all over the world, I have seen astrological symbols. And I thought, why are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac in these Catholic churches all over the world? And there's a reason, because I believe that it used to be a part of the Christian teachings. I mean, I think when the Nicene Creed happened and there's so many books that were written at that time that we don't have. I go by some quotes in the Bible that Jesus said. He said, there shall be signs of the sun, moon, and stars upon my return. And I thought, oh my gosh, okay, why would he say that? I mean, if we're not supposed to be looking at the sky and know that it's important, why would he say that to the disciples, right? And so I started analyzing this and studying it, right? And I was a religion minor. I had in philosophy. So I took all the, New Testament, all the classes in philosophy and loved those. classes. I probably would have liked to got a master's in philosophy, but I didn't think I could learn all the different languages like Latin and all the different things.
Sure.
So I thought it'd be too hard, but I've always loved religion and learning about world religions and all the different things. But I think the biggest thing is that, it's in the book of Revelation. The 4 fixed signs of the zodiac are in Catholic churches all over the world, even here in St. Louis, Missouri, close to where I live, the St. Louis Cathedral. There's the face of the bull, which is Taurus. Its polar opposite is Scorpio. The eagle, the ancient symbol was the eagle, the head of the eagle. And then there's the lion, which is Leo, and the water-bearing man, the face of a man is Aquarius. And those are the 4-star constellations that are the fixed signs of the zodiac that are always in the sky, opposing each other at all times. And I'm like, why are they're in the book of Revelation? Why though? Right. And I would ask this. And then the other really interesting thing, we talk about, Christianity was created or, came about during the Piscean age. And Christianity's, the symbol is the fish, right? And Pisces rules spirituality and all of the mysticism, connection to God, and all of those things. And Pisces is the 2 fish, that's their symbol, the 12th sign of the zodiac, the star constellation Pisces. And so there's all these symbols in Christianity, and Jesus told the disciples, how will we know when you return? And he said, there'll be signs in so many stars. But he also said something to the lines of, follow the man with the alabaster jar in the house that he dwells. And that's the sign of Aquarius. That's the Aquarian age, that everybody talks about, that we're in now or getting ready to be in because of the technology. It's going to be a change in the world. And are we in that? But Jesus said that's when he would return, when follow the man with the alabaster jar, which is the sign and symbol for the sign Aquarius in astrology. Which I can't explain all this stuff, Victor, but I just know it's very interesting.
Absolutely. Not to mention the fact of the 3 men who knew of his arrival. Who are those guys?
Exactly. I remember when I was going to church years ago, and my daughter was in a Bible study, for kids, and she said, "Mama, we're the 3 wise men astrologer." I said, "I think they were." And I've always been open to that. And I've had a lot of people that, that are very religious have told me that they were taught that too, that they followed the star, they knew that there was something special going to happen that night. And it's all of these things, right, that are in religion. And I think sometimes people are afraid. And I do agree that some of these tools they have to be used correctly. You want to use it for the good, and you need to you don't want to play God, so to speak. And because, I believe there is a God, there is a higher power, but I believe that I'm meant to help people. And I believe that astrology is fact, and it's a wonderful, powerful psychological tool. That's how I use it, as a personality tool, to help people understand their personality and their life. And their talents, right, and their strengths and some of their weaknesses as well. And that's what I've used it for. And it's helped me a lot. And I just love to share it with others. The basics, I think one of my goal is to talk and teach astrology on a very basic level so that anyone can understand it. Anyone. And that's how I try to write my books. And that's how I try to explain it when I'm on shows like this, in a very basic way. Because a lot of people shy away from it because they think it's, math, science, it's confusing, it's all these symbols, right?
My guest is Carmen Turner-Schott. Her book is entitled Moon Signs, Houses and Healing, Gain Emotional Strength and Resilience Through Astrology. Carmen, please share with our listeners where they can get all of your books and find out more about you and your work.
Yes. You can visit my website, www.carmenturnerschott.com, SCHOTT.com. And I'm on Facebook, Carmen Turner-Schott, author, Instagram, Carmen Turner-Schott, and YouTube, Carmen Turner-Schott. I have a YouTube channel, and Amazon and Barnes & Noble has all of my books on there. I have 9 books that are out that you can look at, and they're on Amazon. And you can also go to my website, to the books page, And I have all my books there and the links and everything as well.
And we'll be back with more of Carmen after these words on the OMTimes Radio Network.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Back on Vox Novus, my guest this week is Carmen Turner-Schott. We're going to be talking about her book, Moon Signs, Houses and Healing, Gain Emotional Strength and Resilience Through Astrology. You are a prolific author and scholar on the subject of astrology. We're going to be discussing that book. And let's start with last year's Sun Signs, Houses and Healing, Building Resilience and Transformance in Your Life Through Astrology. What inspired that book? And what did you share with your readers?
Yes. So the main thing that I have researched and learned with astrology, knowing the basics of your sun sign can really help you heal, transform, and become more resilient, because each sign has its personality traits that helps them overcome challenge, crisis, depression. Everyone has different gifts, right? Different abilities. And I wanted to write a book for to dedicate to each sun sign. So there's a chapter for each sun sign to know what tips I give them for healing, how they can self-care, take better care of themselves, what things, self-care things will work for them, how they can transform and let go of the past and embrace change, and then how they can become more resilient, which means that they become stronger to overcome challenges in their life. And so I use just my knowledge and research of counseling people with each of the signs. So, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, I have a chapter for each sign. And so, for instance, with Aries, Aries are one of the most resilient signs of the zodiac because they move on quickly from things and they're able to pick up and keep going. They're the warrior of the zodiac, so to speak. And so for them, change is easy. Now, when you have a sign like Taurus, Tauruses like peace. They like comfort. They like stability. They're ruled by the planet Venus. So they don't like anything too quick. They like slow change, right? They're very patient. They're very calm people. And they like to do things that are practical. And they like to be out in the earth and nature, in the garden and just have harmony around them. And so any kind of change is hard for them. So I give, Taurus tips that they have to let go of the past. They have to allow change right into their life and let themselves feel uncomfortable a little bit, right? So I give tips to each of the sun signs based on their classic personality traits. And I give them different examples of things they can do, to move forward and to become stronger. And I also talk about in the sun signs book, relationship compatibility, health issues that each sign might be prone to, when they get stressed. Like Aries are prone to headaches, tension headaches, migraines, things like that. Tauruses are prone to neck and shoulder tension, even losing their voice or sore throats, right, when they get stressed. And I go through, each sign and give each of them tips of things that can help them really tap into their strengths, their personality strengths. So that's what inspired me, was I wanted to help people and I wanted to write about astrology in a very basic way, that if you pick up my Sun Signs, Houses, and Healing book, that you don't have to know anything about astrology. The whole introduction will explain all of the basics. It'll tell you how to go on astro.com to get your birth chart, what you need, what all the symbols are, what all the personality traits are of the signs, the planets, what the houses are, what they mean. And it puts it all together for you, right? And then you can look up your family and friends and their sun sign. I give the dates for each sun sign, their symbols, their planetary rulers, all of that stuff. So it was really, a passion to write that book to help other people.
You had mentioned relationships in the 60s and 70s. I remember one of the major questions people would ask in social settings was, what's your sign? Should one consider a potential partner sign before entering a relationship?
Yes, because of compatibility. So the funny thing about astrology and compatibility is that in life, often we're drawn to our opposite. So when you have a lot of fire, air in your chart, and you lack water and earth, you're going to tend to draw people that have a lot of water and earth. That's not your best match though, right? But we're attracted. It's that whole saying, opposites attract, right? Because they kind of, you think, you like someone that's different from you, right? But in compatibility and astrology, a simple way I like to describe it is that there's 4 elements. There's fire and air, and there's earth and water. And if you think of nature, what does air do to fire? It makes it grow, right? It makes it expand. So fire and air signs are very compatible, okay, traditionally. Fire and fire are compatible. Air and air signs are compatible. Then you have earth and water. Earth and water goes well together in nature, right? Water flows on the earth. So earth and water signs traditionally are very compatible. And earth and water signs, right? And so that's the basic, 101 right there. But then when you look at your birth chart, each birth chart is unique. And so I can, by knowing your month, date, year, time, place of birth, you can go on astro.com, you can go on my website and pull up your personality profile, your chart. It's going to be a wheel. It's going to be a bunch of symbols. But if you start studying it, you can learn what all the symbols mean. And my sun signs and moon signs book will go over all of that, what all the symbols are and what it all means. But when you do a birth chart, you also want to look at what sign is on your 7th house cusp. The 7th house in astrology rules relationships, marriage, and partnership. So you want to see what sign is on that cusp of that house on the wheel, because all 12 houses are going to have the 12 signs that are going to fall on there, depending on when you're born, where you're born, when. And so, for instance, I have Pisces on the 7th house. I'm a Virgo rising, so I tend to get along well with Pisces people. But I'm also a Virgo. I'm a Virgo sun. So Pisces is water. I'm earth. It's my polar opposite. So I get along with Pisces anyway, right? So when you call signs polar opposites, every sign has a polar opposite. So there's 12 constellations that are in the sky. And when you're looking up at the sky when you're born, there's a sign, a star constellation that's always going to be opposing that sign. It never changes. It's always going to be that way. And that's what we call polar opposites. They're always opposing each other in the sky. And for instance, Aries and Libra are polar opposites, Taurus and Scorpio, Gemini and Sagittarius, Cancer and Capricorn, Leo and Aquarius, Virgo and Pisces, and the list goes on. So your polar opposite is always going to be very compatible for you. You're going to click with them. And that's because you're actually very similar. When you hear the word polar, people think it means you're opposite. It actually means that you share similar personality traits of your polar opposite sign. So we look at that. We look at the elements, right, for compatibility. And we also look at, Mars and Venus in your birth chart. Mars and Venus are the love and the passion planets, right? The relationship energy planets. So we want to see what sign is Venus and Mars in. What house are they in your birth chart? And that really shows us the kind of people that are going to be a good match for you, right? And some other things that get a little bit more in depth with compatibility is we do what's called a synastry chart or in a composite chart. And what that means is I would take, for business partners as well. It's not just for love, but for any kind of partnership and compatibility, you really want to look at someone's chart. Is it good that I work with them or that I partner with them, right? And how do we affect each other if we do work together? And what you do is, you would put my birth chart on top of your birth chart and then flip it. And I would be able to show how I affect you in all areas of your life. And I'd be able to see how you affect me in all areas of my life. And I do that with people I meet. When people want to work with me, I'm like, well, let me see the synastry chart to see how we influence each other, right? And those are all things that astrologers can do to see about compatibility. So there's a lot to it, but the basics are pretty simple once you get those down with the fire and air, earth and water, and then the basics.
And in June, you came out with moon signs, houses, and healing. Where does that pick up where sun signs, houses, and healing leaves off?
Yes. So in astrology, the sun sign, most people know their sun sign, and that's your main identity that you show the world. That's your main personality. The thing that most people don't know is that the moon sign is even more powerful than your sun sign, because the moon sign is your inner nature. It's your emotions. It's how you feel inside. It's how you react, how you nurture others and yourself. It's how you show love. It's a very vulnerable part of ourself, our moon. So we don't always show people our emotional side, right? Our moon sign. And we often keep it very hidden and private until we feel that we can trust someone. And that's why the moon is a very vulnerable placement, because we really have to feel comfortable to show our moon sign traits. So the moon sign book focuses solely on the moon sign personality traits and how that's going to impact you, how you're going to find fulfillment, security, comfort, love, passion, and emotional fulfillment comes through the moon. So when you look in your birth chart, you want to see what sign is the moon in when you're born, what house is it in, which is the areas of life. And the houses rule different things. Like if your moon is in the 4th house of home and family, and it's in, let's say it's in Cancer, the mother figure is going to be very important to you and a very strong bond there. And you're going to find your happiness through having a home and family, through your parents, through your own family. You're going to be a homebody, right? You're going to like your alone time. So that's how we look at everything. But the moon is so important because it's where you find happiness. And so I look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I talk about that in the moon signs book because I started realizing that the moon sign is all about our needs. And so some people really need security. They got to have that money in the bank. They have to own a home. They got to have food on the table to feel that they can express their emotions, right? Some people are more imaginative, more creative, and they're like free spirits. They don't need comfort and stability. They like to, find a spiritual path and travel and roam. Every moon sign is different. And so in the moon signs book, I'm really excited about this book because I just feel like it's very deep, and I give a lot of tips on how to find happiness, fulfillment, security, passion, doing what you love to do, and self-care as well for each moon sign. So I go through, each chapter is dedicated to a moon sign, and I give tips and different stories of people that I've known, in my life, different experiences for each moon sign, and things that'll help them feel comfortable to share who they are and to feel that they can be themselves emotionally with someone else. And what things help them heal, and what things help their moon sign transform and become stronger. So I talk about that in the moon signs book as well.
Here's my chart. Sun in Capricorn, moon in Aquarius, and Cancer rising. Someone said that makes me a hot mess. In all seriousness, how does the Aquarian moon modulate or balance the Capricorn sun?
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. I love Capricorns. My best friend's a Capricorn. My dad, my brother, and my grandfather are all Capricorns too. So Capricorn, is the father of the zodiac, and very serious, responsible, hardworking, usually, drawn to business, finance, owning their own business, working for themselves. They're hard workers. They rule the career house, right? And then that's your main identity. And then and taking care of family, taking care of people, and being, you're the water goat, so to speak. Capricorns are earth, but they're the water goat. So they have 1 foot on water, 1 foot on land. So Capricorns are actually pretty sensitive and emotional people. They really are. They can seem to be serious or responsible from a young age, and they are. They always say Capricorns age backwards. Usually when they're young, they always feel older than they are, and they're drawn to older people. And then you have this moon in Aquarius, which is the rebel. Aquarius is non-traditional. Capricorn is traditional. So you have one side of you that's very traditional and then and practical. And then you have your emotional nature that is very non-traditional, that questions things, that's interested in spirituality and humanitarian causes and helping people. And astrology actually is ruled by Aquarius, right? Uranus is. And so emotionally, you're going to be needing your freedom and be able to explore and think outside the box, very creative and imaginative, and someone that questions authority, questions, why do we have to do things that way? Just because we always have, right? And so those are some things that that I see there. But with your moon in Aquarius, usually you're going to be able to step back and help people in a logical, practical way. And you're not going to get, how do I say this? You're going to be able to really help people like a counselor can help someone without taking on all their problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having those things to do, learning, studying, learning everything you can, reading, all of those things are going to bring you emotional fulfillment. But you typically like your freedom and independence as a Aquarius moon, but then Capricorns usually are the opposite. So that's probably why they joked you, because you have these two different natures, right?
And they said the Cancer rising makes me an inveterate caretaker.
Oh, yes. It's intuitive. And everyone I've known that has Cancer rising, they are very intuitive and empathic and very psychic. Mm-hmm. You sense energy and you know what's going on with people. And I've met so many. My brother's a Cancer rising, and a friend of who is now kind of starting to believe in these things, but never, was raised and I said, you're very intuitive. And they'll be talking to me and I'm like, see, you picked up on what's going on with someone and you felt it, because that's Cancer. They're water. They absorb and feel everything going on around them. Mm-hmm. And usually they have a strong bond and connection with the mother figure. Yeah, Cancers do.
My guest is Carmen Turner-Schott. Her latest book, Moon Signs, Houses and Healing, will be back with more after these words on the OMTimes radio network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Back on Vox Novus, my guest this week is Carmen Turner-Schott. We've been talking about her book, Moon Signs, Houses and Healing, Gain Emotional Strength and Resilience Through Astrology. Carmen, how do the associated planets also come into play?
Yeah, so all of the planets have a certain energy, and they're affecting us right now in the sky. So, when people talk about, Pluto is moving into Aquarius, all these major planetary transits, those things affect our lives. So, for instance, Mercury is the planet of communication, and it rules our mind. And so when it goes retrograde, which is going to happen actually next week, is the shadow. We're going to start feeling this Mercury retrograde energy. It happens the end of August for about 4 to 6 weeks. It means that everyone on Earth is affected, and there's a lot of miscommunication, technological difficulties, computers, phones, emails go haywire. People misinterpret what you say. So the energy of Mercury affects all of our communication. And then Venus, is the planet of love and relationships and harmony and beauty. And it is actually I believe it's also retrograde in the sky, which means that it's spinning backwards. So that means that its energy is not flowing normally like it would, so the energy is a little bit messed up, so to speak. And when planets retrograde, it's a time to reflect on the past, and it's not a time to start anything new. So a lot of people have been telling me lately with Venus retrograde that they've been thinking of old love and old relationships, or people from the past have been coming back into their life. And it's not a good time to start up a new relationship or get back with people that we've already had relationships with. But there's going to be that test, right, of bringing people, the past love issues back into the forefront. And like all the planets, Mars is the planet of drive, aggression. It's where we get our passion. And Jupiter is the planet of good luck, good fortune. It's where we are very generous, where we expand. And Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, all of the planets that are in our birth chart, there's 10 main planets, all of those planets are in a certain sign when we're born. They're in a certain house, which is an area of the sky, and which rules, different areas. So for instance, if you have, Jupiter in the 8th house, a lot of times that you may benefit through inheritance or, just healing abilities. If Jupiter's in the 2nd house of money and finance, you might, inherit money. You might, money may come and go because you like to spend money. You like, and you also, accumulate it easily, but then you also like to, it comes and goes kind of thing. And so we look at all of these energies of the planets and where they're at in a birth chart, and we analyze that. And then we also look at what's going on in the sky right now, right? Every day there's things going on. So for instance, the moon moves through each sign of the zodiac every 2 to 3 days. It moves to a new sign. So it doesn't stay in that sign very long. So every 2 to 3 days, it's in a new sign, and the moon moves very quickly through the sky, right? Through the 12 constellations. Some planets stay in each sign for many, many years, and in each area of the sky for like decades. I mean, and so that's why, lately, people are really talking about how Pluto has been in Capricorn, right? And for many years, and it's going to go into Aquarius. And then it kind of went into Aquarius, out of Aquarius, back into Capricorn, retrograded. Then it's back in Aquarius. And so later this year, the planet Pluto, which is the planet that was found when nuclear power was created, right? When all of these things were invented, like the nuclear bomb, which is Pluto rules death, rebirth, transformation, healing, intensity. And so that planet, when we look at that planet, in the sky, it affects the whole world when it changes signs. And that's going to happen this year. It's going to go into Aquarius. So Aquarius rules technology and space travel, UAPs, UFOs, all of these, these orbs in the sky that were on the news a couple months ago, all of that stuff is Aquarius energy, things in the sky, right? Air. And so Pluto moving into Aquarius, people are wondering what's going to happen in the world. Because when Pluto was in Aquarius, I think it was the 1800s, the last time it's been in there. And it was when the French Revolution was going on, right? All these major things. And when it was moving into there this time, there was the uprisings in France, right? About I think, retirement age. There was lots of riots. And so there's a similar historic pattern that happens with some of these planetary transits. Okay. And you can Google it, all of these things. But I have a little planner that tells me every day, what energy is going on astrologically, right? What planet is retrograde, what sign is the moon in. And that way you kind of know, maybe why you're feeling the way you are, because our body's water, everything's energy. And so astrology, I watched a video and it makes me laugh. It said, you believe in astrology, whether you think you do or not. And it was a little scientific short video about nature and science in the world, and how astrology is a part of everything we do, even though we don't realize it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Listen, we've got about 6 minutes left.
Okay.
You have a brand new book which just came out, The Mysteries of the 12th Astrological House, fallen angels. Give us a sneak peek.
Yes, so the mysteries of the 12th astral house, fallen angels, and then I got phoenixes and angels that just came out too. And it's about the 8th and 12th houses in our birth chart, which are the two most spiritual, most mystical houses in astrology. So I've done research on these two houses for almost 30 years. And I find that people that have planets in the 8th and 12th houses are born very spiritual. They feel different than other people from a young age. They feel like they're alien or they're adopted, like they're not from Earth. They're empathic. They dream things that happen. They're intuitive. They draw people that have problems in there, and people go to them for help. They have these mystical, unexplained experiences, right? Of seeing orbs, angels, all of these things. And I've been collecting research from people all over the world, and I put all of that, those experiences and my research and my own experiences in both of those books. And so if someone wants to know if they have planets in the 8th or 12th, they can do their birth chart, online at astro.com or whatever, and they can see if they have planets in the 8th house or 12th house. And the 12th house is ruled by Pisces. So it's the mystical spiritual house. It's where we have find a oneness with God. It's where we have a spiritual path. So when you have planets there, you're meant to be spiritual. You're meant to have solitude. You're meant to learn things so you can grow and realize you're a soul. The 8th house is a healing house. It's ruled by Scorpio. So a lot of psychologists, social workers, people that are into, do Reiki, energy work, they usually have planets in the 8th house. And they are here to heal people and to help people transform because they have been through a lot of transformation and rebirths in their life. And so if you go to my website, I have a lot of videos on the media page and on YouTube about the 8th and 12th houses that you can listen to, and would love for you to check out my books.
I don't know if I am or not, but I have a sense I'm an 812er.
You probably, I would guarantee you probably are, because most of the time when I'm doing a show like this with someone, the host, I'm like, let me see your chart. I'm like, yeah, you're an 8th and 12th houser almost every time. When you're doing this kind of work that we're doing and Reiki and all these things, there's something in your birth chart. You may have a lot of Pisces energy or Scorpio placements, or you might have planets in the 8th and 12th house. So having a lot of Pisces and Scorpio also makes you, I call 8th housers phoenixes and 12th housers angels. So okay. Phoenixes and angels, that's what I call them.
What do the charts share about our world today with such divisiveness and a need for compassion and kindness and love?
Well, I believe that, everything happening right now is this age of Aquarius kind of energy where it's all about, things have become so technological, and it's a good thing, but it also can be scary, right, in a way, because we get so dependent on technology for everything we do. And Pluto might change the way we communicate, the way we interact with each other. And if you think about it, Aquarius is the sign of humanitarian connection, friendship, helping large groups of people, right? And service. And so I think that we're going to have to come together, and I think we're going to become more technological. I really do. And, you can see it now with virtual reality, and people, it's so real, right? When you're in these headsets, and training is being done in virtual reality, now for all kinds of things. And I think we're just going to continue to learn about space travel, right? Time travel. All these really scientific things are going to start coming into play, right? Robots, there's all these things happening. AI, right? The AI is very interesting. I didn't realize that there's so many issues with this, even with my daughter's school, that teachers are being able to see if students are using AI to write their papers. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I literally learned this like a week ago, right? And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, they know if it's AI or not. I'm like, are you kidding me? So, all of this stuff is Aquarius, energy.
Yeah.
And, but it's meant to be, just like Jesus said, follow the man with the alabaster jar. That is the age of Aquarius. And, it reminds me of the movie The Fifth Element, when they're in flying cars and all this stuff. I mean, I don't know where we're looking outside right now. It's hard to believe that we might be in flying cars someday, but who knows, right?
Absolutely.
Things are changing. And I mean, we're going to Mars, we're doing all these things in space and for the environment. I think that something, I think they call it the new world, the different, the energies, the spiritual realms are all they're saying the Earth's going through a lot of changes right now, the spiritual realm, right? And so I'm open-minded, and I think that everything happened is meant to happen when it with timing, when it's the right time, everything will play out.
The wisdom of Carmen Turner-Schott. She's written a whole bunch of books. Carmen, tell our listeners where they can get all your wonderful books and find out more about you.
Yes, thank you. You can go on Amazon.com and look up Carmen Turner-Schott, my author profile. All my books are on Amazon. All my books are on Barnes & Noble. If you Google me, my website and all my books will come up. It's www.carmenturnerschott.com, SCHOTT. It's spelled a little strange. Follow me on social media, Instagram, Carmen Turner-Schott, author, and then on Facebook. And then I also have a Facebook page called Deep Soul Divers Astrology, which is the name of my astrology consult business, Deep Soul Divers Astrology. So would love for you to follow my page on Facebook, and you can reach out through my website, a contact page, and my books are also on my website.
Carmen, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience and wisdom and all of this wonderful information.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us on Vox Novus. I'm Victor, the Voice Fuhrman. Have a wonderful week.